Arise, Queens. This is the All Queens Army, where women are provided with the tools you need to overcome your fears, face your flaws, and experience breakthroughs as you develop self-esteem so strong you emanate royalty. Now, for your host and commander of the All Queens Army, Breezy time.
Welcome to the All Queens Army podcast. This is your girl, your host, Breezy Time. I am here today with another dope episode for the Queens. Yes, honey, it's another beautiful and dope motivational Monday, Queens. You know, it's my favorite day of the week. I hope Mondays are your favorite day of the week. If they're not, hopefully the fact that new podcast episodes drop every Monday, hopefully that makes Monday your new favorite day, okay? Before we jump into today's topic, I want to just make a couple really quick announcements. First things first, new website. Well, it's not new anymore. I mean, we're like 10 weeks into season 3. The new website has been up for like 2.5, almost 3 months, but I always like to announce it because we always have new queens who are listening to the podcast. If you're new around here, we have a new website. Why is it new? Because the All Queens Army is growing. We're growing rapidly. There are more queens going to the website, checking out the content. The content that we have up there now are 5 e-courses that I put up at the very beginning of season 3. And on top of that, I started a motivational blog. So not only am I motivating the shit out of you on Mondays via the podcast, I'm also motivating the shit out of you in the form of written word on the motivational blog that is also on the website, okay? So new blogs drop every Thursday at 6 a.m. It's the perfect time to sit with your tea, your coffee, and get your morning read, get your morning motivation. Second thing is, if you are not subscribed to the All Queens Army podcast, go to the website, okay? The website is allqueensarmy.com. Click on the subscribe tab. You can subscribe to any of the platforms that we're on. And we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, and iTunes. I created so much content for you queens because I wanted you to have so many different ways to grab a hold of the motivation that you need to get through this crazy thing called life, to get over the humps, to get through all the bullshit that we have to go through as women. So with that being said, today's episode is going to be about how to know when it's time to let someone go. Most of this surrounds intimate relationships that we have, and we're going to be talking today about how to know when it's time to walk away. The reason that I wanted to focus on this topic today is because when I peruse through the internet, when I peruse through social media, I see so much content that focuses on failing relationships and how they can be saved. There's a shitload of content that talks about what you can do to save the relationship, counseling that you can go to save the relationship, just different things that you can do to re-energize your relationship. But in my opinion, there's not enough people talking about how to see the red flags and how to see the indications that maybe the relationship reached the expiration date. And I don't see that as much as I see how to save it. Now, I totally understand the tons of content that's out there that's explaining and educating people on how to save a relationship, because relationships are not easy. Relationships are challenging. Relationships, in my opinion, are an institution for growth. When you're in a situation with a person, you're in it with them every single day. This is going to be your partner. This is going to be someone that you're going through life's challenges with. You're going through the leaps and the bounds. You're going through the peaks and the valleys. It's not going to be easy. So I totally understand all of the content about how to save a relationship and things that you can do and steps that you can take and books that you can read and conferences that you can go to and webinars that you can watch. I understand because it's all well intended. People who are in relationships who are trying to make them work, we need all of that great content. This is not to say that that content isn't good. This is not to say that we're oversaturating saving relationships. That's not what I mean. All I'm trying to do is make sure that you queens also have a way to understand and know when to identify signs and things that are going on in the relationship as an indication for, do I need to abort mission? Do I need to walk away? Because we're always trying to save things. And the other thing that worries me just a little bit is there's some women who experience things in a relationship that they really shouldn't be dealing with, and they're seeking out the assistance, the help online, and what they're finding mostly is how to save the relationship. So I want to make sure that we have a conversation on the All Queens Army platform that addresses the other end of the spectrum, okay? The first thing that I want to talk about is the consequences consequences of staying past the expiration date of relationships. And yes, queens, relationships have expiration dates. Every relationship can possibly run its course, whether it's a natural thing, meaning the person leaves this life, which we don't want to wish that on anybody, or it's because what you needed to learn or gain or experience with that person, that season is over. So we've all heard those terms before. Some relationships are here for a reason, and some for a season, and some for a lifetime. We've all heard about that. So I want to first address the consequences. You queens know I like to talk about the consequences, not to provide gloom and doom or negativity, but I want to provide the consequences so that you understand if you stay past the expiration date, what are some of the things that can happen? What are some of the things that you can experience? What are some of the negative things that you can manifest in your life if you don't know when to say when? Okay, so we're going to talk about that first. If you stay in a relationship past its expiration date, if you're not getting what you want, if you're not getting what you need out of that relationship, you can grow resentment and bitterness. This even extends past the person that you're with. You can grow bitterness and resentment about men or women, whomever you date. You can grow bitterness and resentment about the whole dating or marriage or whatever the status of your relationship is. So wherever you are in life in that moment, you can grow bitterness because you're sitting in a situation trying to get blood from a turnip, trying to get what you need, trying to get what you want, probably communicating what you need or what you want, and you're still not getting it, but you're giving and you're making an investment and you're putting more of yourself into this relationship. It creates bitterness. And queens, we've talked about bitterness and resentment in some previous episodes. Queens, you don't want to get to a place where you start to be a bitter person because it really only hurts you. It hurts you. It hurts your future relationships. It hurts your relationships with other people who you're not even quote unquote in a relationship with. It alters your perception and your mindset about a lot of things. Sometimes it even makes you turn out to become a victim of situations and circumstances. So you have to be careful of that, queens. Another consequence is ignoring your deal breakers and your boundaries. And I see that happen a lot. A lot of times, one of the first things that are indications that there may be an issue in the relationship, or maybe you're not with the right person, or maybe your relationship has just run its course, is you notice that some of your deal breakers are starting to pop up. You're starting to see things with that person or about that person that are deal breakers for you. Or you start to see that this person is crossing personal boundaries, things that you're not comfortable with or things that they're doing. And so when you see things like that happening, queens, if you keep letting it go for too long, that person loses respect for you. And when they start to lose respect for you, they start treating you differently. You start to see the way that they act towards you changes. You start to see their patience for you gets a lot shorter. They start acting like you're annoying them. They start acting like they don't really appreciate you. They start acting like you are replaceable. All of those types of things that start popping up, and you just see a shift in the way they act and a shift in the way they treat you. And that's because people lose respect. When you don't stand your ground, when you don't make sure that people don't cross your personal boundaries, when you aren't checking people for the deal breakers and making that mature decision, and you know what, maybe this isn't the person, even if you like them, even if you've fallen in love with them, when you find something, some characteristic, something that they do, an attitude that they have, a moral that they have or don't have, when you run into those things, if it truly does bump up against your deal breakers or your boundaries, you have to address it immediately. And if it's something that that person is just hell bent on, this is just who they are, and you can't find a middle ground or a compromise, it is an indication that that relationship has met its expiration date, period. If you don't, if you compromise your boundaries, if you compromise your deal breakers, then that person slowly loses respect for you and they will start treating you differently. I'm probably preaching to the choir for some of you because you may be experiencing something like that where you've seen a shift in the behavior of the person that you're with. That could be the issue. Here's another potential consequence, okay? You or the other person may start entertaining other people outside of your relationship. Now, that's a big, big, big one. Now, this one is probably the one that I see most often because you're sitting in a relationship just for the convenience of being with the person that you're comfortable with, just for the comfort of not having to deal with the breakup. Sometimes we know that the relationship is over. Sometimes we know that this isn't the right person. Sometimes we know this isn't the person that we want to spend the rest of our lives with and that this relationship isn't going anywhere. anywhere. But there's something about that person or that situation that we're holding on to. We're intentionally holding on to it. Some of us hold on to it because the sex is good. Some of us hold on to it because, oh, they met my family, they've met my kids, they're good to my kids, my mother likes them. Some people hold on to it for the money. We've merged all of our stuff. We have bills together. We have a place together. Some people stay in it for too long because maybe the person is providing something for you financially and you're leaning on them and you don't want to lose that resource right now. Well, here's the bottom line. If you stay for whatever reason in a situation, in a relationship past the expiration date and you are unfulfilled and you know it, sometimes people start seeking people outside of the relationship to form emotional bonds and emotional connections where they're getting what they need from someone else outside of the relationship and still dealing with the person that they're with. The physical body is still there, but emotionally they're starting to attach to someone else because this other person is filling that void and filling that need. That's a bad thing to do, queens. It's really, really messy. Okay. So you don't want to invite that kind of drama into your life. There's no need to experience that, to go through any of that, when you can just make the mature decision to remove yourself from that relationship. All right. Here's the last consequence that we're going to talk about. And this to me is the most important one. This is the one that should make you say, you know what? I'm out of here. This is the one that really should jar you into making the right decision for yourself. Okay. If you stay in a relationship or a situation past the expiration date, you can be wasting time. And if you waste your time, you could be blocking your blessing. Listen when I tell you, queens, that this is probably the biggest reason that most people have not found the person that they are meant to spend the rest of their lives with. It is because you are blocking your blessing. You have someone in your life taking up space in that intimate sector of your life. You have the wrong person there. And the worst thing about it is some of you queens know you have the wrong person there. You know that this isn't the right guy, or you know this isn't the right woman. You know you're not happy. You know you're not getting what you need. You know that this isn't a situation that you can continue to tolerate. You know that you can't grow here, yet you stay here for the convenience. You stay here because you don't feel like dealing with all of the nonsense of the breakup and the frustration and the hurt and all of the shit that we all know because we've all been through it at one point or another. We know how it feels to go through. And a lot of times we stay in those situations and we are wasting time. And the person that it is meant for us to be with, the blessing that we've been hoping for, that we've been asking for, cannot get to you because you have someone in that space. You can't think that you're going to meet the right person, the person you've been asking and praying for all this time, while you have the other person still sitting there. You don't want to start a relationship like that anyway. You want to start off with a clean slate. So hear me when I say it, queens, this is the biggest reason why so many queens are not with their king or have not yet attracted their king, or the king can't get to you because you got a jester sitting next to you and he is not going to play around with a silly ass person to get to his queen. Okay. So be careful, be careful, be careful. I can't stress that enough. It is very important that you make a mature decision when you realize that this person is not the right person for you. When those red flags start popping up, you have to make a mature decision because you could be ruining your energy for the person that you're meant to be with. Okay. We're going to move on. The second thing that I want to talk about is identifying the signs that it may be time to go. So some of you queens, I know for a fact that you know that you're not with the right person, even though you're still with them, even though you haven't had the hard conversation yet, even though you haven't severed the ties yet, you know damn well that this person is not the right person. Now, there's some other queens who really don't know yet. They kind of have a feeling. They may be starting to second guess some things, but they're still not really sure. So I want to talk to those queens next, okay? I want to talk to you queens about signs that it may be time for you to sever the relationship with this person, okay? Here's the first thing. If you're experiencing more pain than you are happiness, that is a huge red flag, a huge red flag. Don't mistake your pain, your baggage that you're bringing in for the pain that the other person is causing you, because there's a difference in your own pain and your own shit and your own baggage and what the other person may be bringing to you. Now, if that other person is bringing you pain, if they're causing you pain, if some of the things that they're doing are hurting you and you're getting more of that than you are getting the happy and the content times, you may need to think about that, because no relationship is supposed to bring you a whole bunch of bullshit, period. You are a queen, honey. That is not a blessing for someone to bring you a whole bunch of drama, a whole bunch of negativity, a whole bunch of pain, a whole bunch of frustration. No, that's not it. He ain't the one or she ain't the one, okay? Here's another sign. If you're losing your identity. Now, losing your identity means that you have changed so much from who you truly are, from your genuine personality, from your true self, just so that you can make a relationship work, or just so that you could fit in, or just so you could step up to his level, or so you could step down to his level. Because I know a lot of you queens who are stepping down and dumbing yourselves down just to be with someone, or just to say you have someone. Don't do that either, okay? Don't do that. But if you're losing your identity, meaning you're stepping into something else to become someone else, to behave like someone else, to act like someone else, to put a mask on, to be with someone, don't lose yourself, queen. If you can't be yourself, flaws and all, he or she is not the one, period. All right, here's the third sign. If you have to continue to justify that person's actions or behaviors. Oh my goodness. I know someone so very personally who does this, and it drives me crazy. Listen, I'm not saying that you should not defend your significant other. Defending your significant other, not allowing people to disrespect your significant other, is totally different than justifying their actions or behaviors. Justifications are excuses. That's all they are. They're excuses for why something is happening. If you have to make an excuse for why something is happening or why someone is doing something, you are full of shit, and so is that person. I hate to tell you that. I hate to say it, but all excuses are lies that you tell yourself to sell yourself something. And you're trying to sell that same bullshit to someone else. That's what a justification is. Because at the end of the day, if you were okay with what the person did or how they behaved, you wouldn't need to justify it. You shrug your shoulders and say, it is what it is. That's how they are. That's who they are. And I'm okay with it. The only reason that anyone needs to justify anything is when truly deep down inside, consciously, you're not okay with what the person did or how they behaved. That's the only time that you feel the need to justify something. When people start justifying shit to me, immediately I know that they're not even comfortable with what they're justifying. Because if you were comfortable with it, you wouldn't need to explain it. What's understood doesn't need to be explained. If you find yourself constantly justifying their actions or justifying their behavior, it means that you don't even agree with it, that you're not even okay with it. And if you don't agree and you're not okay and you're making excuses, it means that what they're doing is bumping up against your boundaries. What they're doing is bumping up against your morals, and that's unacceptable. Okay, here's the next sign. If you are experiencing emotional, physical, or verbal abuse, I think this is an obvious one, but a lot of women do not realize when they are in an emotionally abusive relationship. And let me give you one very strong indicator that you're in an emotionally abusive relationship. If the person you're with manipulates you into feeling guilt, manipulates you into feeling shame, manipulates you to not hold them accountable, tries to turn shit around when you're trying to have a conversation, turns the story around to make themselves the victim, to make you out to be the bad guy, gaslighting you and trying to create an argument to deflect from the real issue, you are in an emotionally abusive relationship, period. There are a lot of people who are in emotionally abusive relationships and don't even know it. You have no idea. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of these queens know that something isn't right, but it's very, very difficult to identify, especially when you love the person or when you're in love with the person. You see all of the good about them. And then again, I'll go back to the previous, you start justifying their actions and behaviors. It's a very, very, very big ass red flag, queen. Pay attention. Pay attention to how you feel. Pay attention to how your arguments work. Pay attention to if the person's turning shit around. Pay attention to if you feel like you're never being heard. You can't get your point across. You always feel like the bad guy. You're always the one apologizing. If that's the case, you could potentially be in an emotionally abusive relationship. Physical abuse and verbal abuse are a little bit more straightforward. Most people understand that, but I'll give you a couple of examples just in case we have some queens who are questioning. Physical abuse is if this man is putting his hands on you in any way to intimidate you, to hurt you physically, to harm you. No man should ever put their hands on a woman, period. Verbal abuse is belittling, it's condescending, it's yelling, it's trying to intimidate the woman with overpowering her verbally, okay? It's all abuse. If you see any signs of anything like that, or if it's going on, abort mission, get the hell out of there immediately. And this goes for men and women, because women who are in relationships with other women can also be emotionally, physically, and verbally abused. Men can be emotionally, physically, and verbally abused by women as well. So it goes both ways. I don't want you queens to just think that it's men who can do this to women. No, women do it to women and women do it to men as well. Either way, any way you cut it, it's unacceptable. Unacceptable, and you need to get out of there. Okay, here's another potential sign. If your partner is not willing to do their part to resolve the issues, if you're always the one having to compromise, if you're always the one, again, having to apologize, if you're always the one who feels like you're making the effort to fix the problems or fix the issues or change yourself or learn something new or do things differently, if it's always you and that person is never willing to resolve, they're never willing to make an effort, they're never willing to put any energy into working on the problems or working on some of the things that you guys have identified as an issue, you may want to rethink that, because if it's happening now, it'll only get worse. And usually when you're involved with someone who's not willing to do their part to resolve the issues, a couple of reasons come to mind why this happens. Either they're emotionally abusive or verbally abusive, or they don't care enough about you. They don't see enough value in you to make these changes, to want to do anything, or they don't see enough value in themselves. And if a person doesn't see enough value in themselves, they can't see value in you, because you can't see what you don't have. You can't experience what you aren't already. We talk about that all the time when we talk about manifesting and the law of attraction and all of that good stuff. So if you don't know what I mean, if that sounds crazy to you, go listen to a couple previous episodes, all right? Here's another sign. If the relationship is stifling your growth, if you're in a relationship and this person is preventing you from growing, and when I say growing, that means growing, evolving, changing, becoming a better woman, maturing, moving yourself to the next level in life. If this person is trying to hold you back, if they're trying to tell you that you shouldn't do it, if they're trying to block it in any way, if they're doing anything outside of absolutely 100% encouraging and supporting you, not the person for you. For me, that's a huge one, because growth and evolution is life for me. So if you prevent me from growing, or if you're trying to talk me out of it, or if you're trying to make me feel stupid because of it, if you're belittling me and you're super condescending, that for me feels like emotional abuse and manipulation. I put it right into that category. You queens may want to think about that as well. It's a horrible trait. It shows that that person's probably afraid of you growing and maturing and realizing that they ain't shit and you want out. That's how I feel about that. Okay, so here's another sign. There are only 2 more left. If you're being used meaning someone's taking advantage of you. Someone's taking advantage of your kindness. Someone's taking advantage of your resources. Someone's taking advantage of your loyalty. Someone's taking advantage of your trust. Someone's taking advantage of your honesty. Okay? There are so many other ways that people can take advantage of you. Most people will look at it and only say that people can use you for money, or people can use you for status, or people can use you to get put on. There's so many other ways. Yes, those are all examples of being used, but you can also be used for other things that I just mentioned. So make sure you're paying attention to that, queens. If you feel any of those things, like this person is using something about you that's beneficial to them in any kind of way, you have to be careful with that, and you may want to make a different decision about the status of that relationship, okay? Okay, here's the last sign. If you are unappreciated and or not valued. We touched on value in a previous sign, and I'm going to talk about value here too, okay? Because people who truly value you typically will not do all of these things, these signs. If someone truly values something, they are willing to do what it takes to make the relationship work. They're willing to allow you to be who you are. They see it. They love you. They value you. They accept you for you. Value is almost in alignment with unconditional love. So if a person does not see your value, I want you queens to know it's not because you're not valuable. If a person doesn't see your value, it's because they don't see their own value. A lot of times they don't even think they deserve someone like you. So not seeing your value and treating you badly or treating you in a way that you don't deserve because they don't see your value is almost a form of self-sabotaging for them. Let me just go ahead and ruin this relationship because I know she's going to leave me for someone else anyway. Or I know one day she's going to wake up and realize that I'm not good enough. See, them not valuing you is just showing you that they don't think they're good enough for you. And if you don't think you're good enough for me, you're not. That's it. Okay, so now that we've discussed the consequences of staying in a situation or relationship past the expiration date, we've also talked about different signs that you may want to pay attention to that may indicate that it's time for you to walk away. Now I'll give you some really quick tips on how to leave, how to actually walk away, how to sever the tie, how to get away from this person. What do? This may seem obvious, like, yeah, Bree, why do you need to educate us on how to break up? Let me tell you why I need to educate you queens on how to break up. Because y'all don't be knowing how to break up right. Y'all be messing the breakups up so so bad. Like, y'all be terrible at the breakups. The questions that I get in my DMs from you queens, the emails that I get from you queens, the questions that y'all ask me, I be like, what are y'all doing? This is not how you break up. So I have to address it, okay? I love y'all. I want y'all to do the breakup right. I want y'all to make sure that you get this person out of your life the right way and stop falling back into not just with that person, but the same type of situation over and over and over again, queens. Like, we got to do better, y'all, okay? So I'm going to give y'all some quick tips. I'm not going to go into super duper detail because next week's episode, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about this very topic. So I'm just going to give you some really quick tips on how to walk away from these types of relationships if you've made the decision and you've made the determination that it's time to let go. Listen, queens, another really quick thing that I want to say is only you know when it's time for you to walk away. No one else knows that. No one else can tell you that. Like, I would never tell someone that they need to leave unless I do have one exception to that. If that man is physically abusing you, then I will say, baby, you got to go. It's time for you to leave. That is the only time I will ever give a woman the advice that they should walk away, because that is a very, very personal journey and it's a personal experience, and only you know how you feel. Only you know what your journey is. Only you know what you have to learn, what you have to grow through, what you have to go through. You know, that's between you and God or you and the universe, whatever you believe in. So I'd never tell someone when it's time for them to go or that it's time for them to go. The only thing that I will do are give you some signs that maybe you should look out for, wave that red flag and say, hey sis, this may be an indication that this isn't the one, but it's totally up to you, queen. You have to make that decision. And whatever it is that you choose to do, it should be respected. Okay. Again, outside of physical abuse. Okay. All right. So a couple tips on how to leave, how to break up, how to walk away if you've determined that that's the right decision for you. So here we go. The first thing is to acknowledge the problem. Acknowledge what it is about this person or about this relationship that's creating the problem for you, or that's making you feel like, maybe this isn't the one. Just acknowledge it. You don't have to do anything. You're just acknowledging it. You're just accepting it. It's almost like you're just finally coming to the realization that this is what it is and this is why. Okay, so that's the first step. The second step is, I kind of didn't group it into the first one, but making the decision. Making the decision is hard, and it actually kind of is separate from the first. The first is just the acknowledgement. That's just the acceptance. That's just you coming to the conclusion that this is a major problem. Whatever that problem is, it's major. I don't like it. I don't want to deal with it anymore. That's acknowledging. The making the decision is you really coming to the conclusion and coming to the determination that you're done. And this one I made separately. I didn't mean to lump it with the first one initially, but I made it separate because making the decision to walk away is a huge decision. It's not one that you should make lightly. It's not a situation that you should just keep bouncing in and out of like you're playing double dutch and you're trying to jump in. No, if you're going to sever the ties with someone, be done. Like, seriously, be done. Don't keep going back and forth trying to figure it out. Don't keep opening the door and closing the door and opening the door and closing the door. Again, that's how people lose respect for you. That's how people decide that they don't have to respect your boundaries, okay? So when you make the decision to break up, to be done, you need to be very certain, 100% clear that this is what you want to do. So that time between number one, which is acknowledging the problem, and number two, making the decision, that may take some time. That may not be a 10-minute decision or a 30-minute decision or even a 1 day. That may take you 1 week or 1 month or 2 or 3 months. Who knows? But that should not be taken lightly. You should really spend time in that place. What do you want to do? And making that decision, because once you make the decision to walk away, you really need to make that decision final. Really. I see so many women who kick the man out. We're breaking up. We're done. I'm done. You block him. You kick him out, or you tell him to leave. You pack his stuff. You throw his stuff out. You have a whole conversation with your friends. You have a whole conversation with your family. Your children are involved. And the next thing you know, you're right back together. I mean, come on, queens. We have to do better than that. People are not going to respect our boundaries, and we're never going to get what we want if we keep blowing where the wind blows. We have to be steadfast, firm, and immovable on what we want, on what we command, on what we deserve. That's the only way that you're going to attract it to yourself. So moving from step 1 to step 2, acknowledging the problem and then making a decision whether you're going to break up with the person, that's a huge one. Okay, so take that very seriously. Okay, the third thing if you do come to the determination that you want to sever the relationship, now it's time to have the breakup conversation. Now it's time to let the person know that you're done and you don't want to be in the relationship anymore. Okay. Now that may look different for a lot of people because it depends on the dynamics of your relationship, where you are in your relationship. Do you live together? There's a lot that comes with that, obviously. So I know it's not always that cut and dry, but you queens get what I mean when I say have the breakup conversation. You just have to do the actual breakup and you have to mean it. Now, here is the most important step. Number 4, create separation. Once you have the conversation that it's over, it's done, you no longer want to be in a relationship with this person, now you need to create the separation. You need to move out. If you don't live together, you need to make sure that you're not going back and forth, trying to see the person, picking up belongings, all that dumb shit. You have to stop doing that. And yes, I might be being a little harsh when I say dumb shit, but we have to understand that those things are things that create more pain and create more trauma and create more drama. And you don't want that in your life. So you have to learn how to stop doing stuff like that and falling back into those habits. Those habits and some of those things are very immature. Now, again, I'm not talking about situations that are truly legitimate. I'm talking about the little excuses that people make to keep going back and forth like a tennis match. Don't do that. It creates emotional trauma, not just for you, but potentially for your children. If you have children involved, for your family, if you have family members involved, it creates trauma. It's hard to get past the hurt. It's hard to start healing when you start creating all of that bull crap in between. Create the separation immediately, as quickly as you can, depending on whatever your situation is. Again, if you live together, you may not be able to create the separation that fast, but there's some other alternatives. Depending on your situation, these may have to be altered a little bit. If you need some help with how to do it, how to alter it, because your situation may be a little bit different, that's fine. Just shoot me an email. I'll be willing to help, or talk to friends, talk to family members, find some ways to find some solutions for this. Okay. Now, the next thing you want to do after you create the separation is let go of the mementos. Let go of the pictures. Let go of all the little tchotchkes and all of the little things that remind you of that person. You have to clear all of that stuff out of your immediate view. Okay. If that means packing it up in a box, putting it in your garage, putting it in your basement, whatever the case may be, that's fine. I'm not saying you have to go ripping up people's stuff, burning it down. You don't have to do all of the dramatics. You can just move it out of your everyday view so that you don't have the constant reminders of the person or of the relationship. Now, again, if it's a relationship, let's say it's a marriage and you have to go through divorce, so you can't just throw the person away and shut them off that easy. Or if you guys have kids together, all of those are different little caveats to this, but you get my point. You guys know what I mean when I say let go of the mementos. Okay. Now, here's the last thing, and this is one of the most important things, is forgiveness. You have to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for choosing the wrong person. Forgive yourself for allowing this person to do whatever it is that they did to you, for allowing them to make you feel whatever it is that you were feeling. Forgive yourself. It's all a part of the growth process. When you choose partners, sometimes you may have chosen a partner 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. You're not even the same person today that you were when you chose this person. So you have to forgive yourself, be kind to yourself, be gentle with yourself, show yourself some self-love, lick your wounds, hug yourself, love yourself. Don't allow that to make you beat yourself up and put yourself down for making that decision. And then the other thing, of course, the forgiveness. Forgive the other person. Forgive them for whatever they did to hurt you. Forgive them for however they let you down. Forgive them for not being who they said they were. Just forgive them for whatever negative feelings or emotions that you have. Forgive them for anything that angers you. Forgive them for any pain they caused you. Forgive them. And you don't even have to tell them you forgive them. That's a decision that you make between you and you. That's a self-reflection moment, okay? That's one of those get your journals out moment, okay? Remember last episode, I talked about those journals. Forgive that person. Let it go. Forgiving is for you. Forgiving is not for them. They may not deserve your forgiveness, depending on what the situation was, but you deserve it, because if you don't forgive that person, you're going to carry on that negativity, that yucky baggage to your next relationship. And queens, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. That's how you start blocking blessings, okay? So with that being said, queens, I hope this was a helpful episode. I hope you learned something here. I hope I didn't offend anybody. Sometimes I have to do a little tough love, okay? Because sometimes the queens, y'all be doing stuff that's going to hurt you and send you backwards, okay? I do too. So listen, if y'all see some shit that I'm doing, check me. Check me. We here to check each other, okay? We are here to adjust each other's crowns, to lift each other's chins up, and to motivate the shit out of each other and let each other know that we got this. We can handle this. We can overcome anything, period, point blank. That's what we're here for. So it's not always going to be a peaches and cream and a roses and daisies conversation. Sometimes we have to just call each other to the carpet. And that's what the podcast and the All Queens Army is all about, okay? So I love you so much, queens. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you need to reach out to me, if you you have any questions that you need to ask, if you want to talk to me specifically about your situation because I didn't address your specific situation and you don't really know where you fit in, you can always reach out to me via email at breezy@allqueensarmy.com. That is BREIZY at allqueensarmy.com. I love you so much, Queens. I will talk to you next week, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the All Queens Army podcast. If you want to connect with Breezy Time and the All Queens Army, be sure to follow them on IG and Facebook at All Queens Army. Or head over and check out the All Queens Army YouTube channel. Until next time.